In this playlist, we are going to break down the world's best players against each other, step by step and frame by frame. My name is John. I've been a top 100 player in the world, and now I'm a professional coach. This is the real way to improve through my developed system to organize every moment into a calculated decision. These are the 3 keys to getting you from the D4 to elite to even the pro scene. Let's get started with today's match. If you want an even easier way, check out lootbar.gg. They have the lowest prices, fastest delivery, while being 10% cheaper than any other platform and trusted by big names like Pro Owns and Zorky. You also have insanely good reviews on Trustpilot. Get an additional 10% coins with my code JohnSims at checkout. All right, welcome in, guys. My name is John. I'm going to be your coach, and today this is going to be FUTalert or FTax. I always say F2 for some reason. Against Mark11. We're just going to be breaking it down step by step. So if this is your first time, go ahead and smash that subscribe button and like it if you guys do find some value today. So you should be able to find some. Let's just go ahead and roll it. I did like a 4-part series. I'm going to try to stick them to maybe 2, maybe 3 for these. I'm going to try to stick around 20, 30 minute max on these. But right off the bat, he's using the meta like attack here. So what you see on this build up right here. So I'm seeing this a lot lately is what people are doing is they're sending this fullback. You'll see this. They'll send the fullback right after the kickoff, and they'll do this little bing, 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 and then they're just going to send this deep ball. What you use is L1, R1 square, and that's going to send that ball, as far as you possibly can, right, with it. But, okay, so then he's trying to get into this space. Now, the reason why he doesn't actually win this ball here, so if we come back here just a hair, so why doesn't he pass it here? I'm not sure. Maybe he steps here, right? Maybe he's worried about that, so he gets into this position. But why is it that Mbappe wasn't able to win or hold on to his ball? Most likely a couple things. One, maybe he pings this, and so that's a heavy touch. You see how fast that ball comes in? Now, there's another step that maybe he turned this way with it, and that goes right into a defensive tackle position. So what instead he needed to do is, I always recommend doing this. It's only a pace of play thing. He was taking a risk, which I'm still good with. He was taking a risk that when Mbappe turns this way, he's expecting them to jump this way, and then he opens up. But realistically, that's, I think, a poor read. What he really needed to do is take like a first touch like this, just straight away. I call this an indecisive touch, because what happens is the defender's most likely going to choose a position. Then what he can do is maybe ball roll scoop in either direction and try to take a chance from there. That's one way. It gets really tight and a little analytical here. And so realistically, you want to play quick. But this is where he just turns a little bit early and he doesn't get a read from the opponent. He just takes a chance, which taking chances against a center back in the box is realistically the best thing you possibly can do. On the defensive side, he is very aggressive. As you see this build up by Mark11 here, he's got like 4 or 5. Look at the numbers here that he's attacking with. So he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players coming in on the exact same space. So if you look at the defense here, we've got, we've only got 1, 2, 3 defenders really in this space. Sorry, 4, maybe I would say 3 really in this area. And so what he's trying to do is he's really trying to not necessarily overload this here, because it's really hard to kind of get that. What he's trying to overload is this space right here. And Tekkz is kind of falling for it. If you look, his base is pretty high here. And so that's going to be in an interesting position overall. I'm going to go ahead and cut my feed just to make sure that you guys can see this properly. But basically, he opens it up and he steps in. And this is a poor defense by Tekkz. There's a little weird way you guys can solve this, but basically the AI on this line, now I talk about this quite a bit, but this little reference, once you get down to this spot and you're into like this area down here, it gets really poor AI defense. You'll see like a center mid come like all the way over here. You'll see a center back come this way. It just gets really chopped up, and the developers do that on purpose. But what I want you to see is he doesn't need to cut off Bonmati right here so quickly. What he can do is what I call a position replacement. So he can actually effectively step off this line here. And so if he steps off this line, instead of taking option number 1, instead of taking option 1, he takes option 2. He can then adjust. But you're probably saying, but then how does he cut the edge? Well, you actually adjust using the momentum from our Marquinhos. And this is where understanding player animation momentum is going to be very effective. And so what this ends up doing is if you don't do this, well, now what's going to happen, if you don't do this, you're going to have essentially a center back here, and then you have your fullback here. Now, what you're hoping to do is when the play starts to rotate this way, the center back comes in, and then the fullback doesn't even have to move, which is very, very strategic in this set position. However, what happens is if you go and you use that fullback here, there's a big issue that actually occurs. You have Rangers right here that will come down into this space, and that opens up. Or if you're a poor defense, he ends up jumping this lane, and then it opens up a cut passing lane. So if you look right here, now he's forced to come in, or he's forced to take a high position, and that opens it up. However, if you go into this zone, this ball can't actually enter here, and so your fullback ends up being in a position that's your fullback here ends up being in a position that cuts off that entry play while being able to manage this zone, and that holds the opponent into what we call a pocket. It makes it a little bit harder and analytical, and then they have to kind of rotate the play or try to find a cheeky little lane. So you see here, now he steps high, and then that makes just a really easy read. He's going to take a chance here, but then he does a nice little cheek, and it gets into the space 1-2, and he's trying to go for it. So it's a little risky by Tekkz, but honestly, the faster you play, the more mistakes both players can make. He ends up being very quick. And so the best players are going to be playing fast as it is, and so it still ends up being okay. So if you can manage, if you can defend, if you can play that quick against another pro, let me tell you, that's it's not easy to do. So both sides are there for... when you're looking at this movement, you may look like he's just dribbling back and forth. This is very, very thought-provoking movement, and people don't recognize how important and impactful this build-up is actually showing. So this is a phenomenal build. I think this is actually Mark11 here attacking instead, and he does a great job. And so if Mark11 is able to manage this style of build-up the entire time, see, I'm actually saying there's the wrong player here. So Mark11 gets a little lucky. But watch this build-up. This is phenomenal build-up. It is this is some of the best build-up play you can probably even show, because if you look at this, he steps off on the edge here, and his center mid gets really wide, and he has to play it. He has to send this way. He's being super, super patient here. He almost even loses the ball on the edge here, and look at this. Look at the pressure that Tekkz is actually applying here. And so you can look at this. What's happening right now is he's actually sending runs. What you didn't notice just a second ago is when the ball got all the way down here, what he's actually looking to do is he's trying to send a run in, and right here, boom, there's the run. So now he's sending this run. As that run's being sent, his eyes are kind of just glossing on that space. And so he does this little player lock here, but the problem is he's not on Xavi. So if he was on Xavi, he might be able to hit it. He would have to turn and hit it, but also those are dummy runs to force the defender. So you can see he's trying to get up there again. He doesn't get to the space, and there he goes. Boom, there's the run. Now he's sending another run in his eyes. What's happening with his eyes are just tracking my man up here. So they're just tracking, they're tracking the homie up here. And so basically Mbappe's just, in that position. So he's just going back and forth, trying to send runs and try to create space. And so you can see this right again. Another player being sent up the space. And the whole point of what I'm trying to say is he's being patient, though. This is extremely challenging to do, because if he loses the ball, look at the counterattack. It's very detrimental to this build. But on the contrary, that's what allows him to open up space. Now look at this attack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 attackers. And so now he's got to be a little bit strategic on where he's going to try to find that 2-on-1 position to break the back line. So look at that nice little skill move backwards. He pulls and separates the defensive structure. So fullback's inverted. So now the fullback's inverted versus the center back. That breaks the structure. He gets a little bit of a recovery. Can he get into that space? And he does. He does the less risky option, more time, and it does get there a little bit, very, very quick. That's a fantastic build by Mark11 here on that attack. So ultimately, that's a great step in going through. So I'm going to try to not over analyze everything. I'm going to try to analyze more of like the key points here going forward here. But as it gets into a space. Now, corners are so annoying. What you're seeing right now a lot of the time is you're seeing this player lock into the striker, off the header, and into the goal. And you're seeing this constantly. I think this is the most ratty thing you can possibly do is player lock. So you player lock to this position, and then you switch off of that into this zone. Now, what they're trying to do is they're essentially trying to take the biggest, baddest player, and then they're trying to mark up against the worst player. So it's like taking, like VVD against Crystal Dunn, 5-1 center mid. So that's essentially what these guys are trying to do, and then that creates that advantage. However, to stop this, it's almost impossible to break this position, this pass. So to stop this, you have to really actually just focus on where the ball is going to land versus where the header is going to be. It's going to be impossible for him to win with Aitana there. Now, if he's able to mark up early with his big, that's one thing. But to really beat that, you have to go where the ball is going versus the opposite. So two in the same spot there. Here we go. Rotate. He's going to try to be patient here. And so this is where I haven't seen too much of Mark11, but Tekkz has been playing. See, he tries to do it right back to him. You're going to see a lot of that going forward, and that's very unfortunate because I think that's such a gross way to play, but it's part of the game, and if you guys want to get into a pro series, you got to know corners. Corners are arguably the one. Corners, free kicks, and that type of stuff are kind of the main things that you really have to focus and take notice on when improving your game, essentially. And so this is the qualifier match for Tekkz and Mark11. So there is another one there, and there's another corner. So another goal off of a corner. This is the short way approach. So corners did get nerfed, but what he's going to try to just rip. And what he's looking right here is he's looking for an adjustment. So he's not sending it right away. He's looking for an adjustment, and so he forces that play down, and then he's going to send. And so he's just waiting, and so now he sees that space open, and now it's just a little bit harder to reach. And so this is where the player, so he tries to player switch. He's not trying to player switch here. What he's trying to do is he's trying to player switch here and then get R1 on this side, and he just misses times that run. So you can see how he is just a little bit late on that run. This is what I call a swarm technique, and by him actually hitting R1, it actually helped the attack there. And so Rangers would not have actually scored that had Mark pressed R1. So Mark presses R1. So that's Tekkz's second goal off of a corner. Corner goals are, I'm telling you, they just it's just like adds a handicap. That's a fantastic play, and actually a slide tackle by Stam there is phenomenal as well with Tekkz. The build up there is very good, and there's the rotation. So he pulls the fullback. Now, I think he sends it a little bit too early. He did want to get the corner position to lower the defense, and now he's just waiting for that rotation, and he tries to force it. So this is where I would probably say I would actually hold the position, right? So this is perfect. This is fantastic play. Boom. Fullback's gone. Where is he going to be worried about is going to be right here. I would be sending like an incisive creative run here. This is where not keeping it wide, I would be trying to get that angle inverted, because what that's going to do is it's going to change. It's going to give the play more time to develop, one. But two, what it's going to do is it's going to not necessarily develop. It will give more time for you to stay without pressure. So the second this player goes offside, that invites pressure. That's like the most common thing when you see counterattacking, defenses. They'll come and press you right off that space. So instead of having that happen, what you do is you use creative run at like an angle, like a 45-degree angle. And what that will happen is instead of the line being here that it stops, the line ends up stopping back here. And that allows you to stay this way, which then forces this player to have to adjust into a space like this. And then now you've got an angle where you can potentially build this, and you're also including an attack on the high side. Now, that's the way I play. This is my strategic play. They've kind of nerfed the creative runs a little bit this year, which is very frustrating because creative runs were one of the hardest things to actually master, and it's very unfortunate. Then he just tries to force it on that roll play. So he's forcing high side. That's great pressure to force wide. So there's a strong strategy to actually what he's doing right there, and unfortunate it just didn't work out for him. But there's a strong strategy right here before he did make a mistake on the ladder side. So right here, what you see is the step. So you see how he steps, but he steps on the inside. What he's doing is he's trying to force the play wide. That's going to build up time to get you more defensive structure. So I think he steps a little bit early on this one, and then that opens up space. So then he jumps a little bit too far low, and then now he's on that rebound. So instead of pulling here, what he needed to do is actually drive he needs to drive this up. So you see how he's driving out? There's not enough efficiency space there. He needs to drive up. So now he can attack the space, because if the fullback is here instead of here from this location coming out, what you're going to see is this is going to be much more challenging, but he can still defend that edge. And so that will also invite you to be able to then try to potentially get an R1 here by doing a quick player switch to this position and dragging that and then forcing it out again. Instead, that breaks the line and then allows an invitation to the far wing, which is perfectly timed and a great player lock. Is he offsides? Did they call that offside? Because if they did, yeah, they called it offside. But that's, I mean, man, that was a great play by Mark. That's unfortunate. Simple play here, 1-2s. There's a nice swarm defensive technique. There's that pull. That's a great technique. He just messed up here, but this is a really good technique that we need, like, players just don't make. Is this player lock to get in front of the player to receive a ball short. That is such an undervalued mechanic, because what he's trying to do is, you can see this, he's going to try to feed this in. But what he really needed to do is get another quick little player lock to come right here, or a creative run. And then what that could potentially do is drag this player down, and then he could have slide that ball maybe right here with another little creative run or something, potentially opening up. The timing on that's a little bit hard because he could probably drag that CDM down, but he might get enough time to be able to get in space to get out wide. But forcing wide, the fullback defense here is just very weak. I think it's just Teo being fast. So that's just Teo being fast versus being strategic. The efficiency is very poor. So it's really bad defense. I could almost tell that was leading to a goal. This is just charging with no thought. Really, I don't really know why he's doing this. This is really that's really poor decision making. Like, it's really bad defense. So you can see how he comes down and he steps up. That's poor. I mean, he can just easily get that ball away. I don't know why Tekkz didn't actually play that. And so then he gets in an interior position, and boom, 1-2. And if you see this charge, so what he needs to do is actually stay flat, stay right here, boom. So he's trying to pop, but he's way too far. So now he needs to step off. There's no reason to keep going. There's no reason to keep going. So now he needs to drag here and pull down, and then invite. He has to invite this pass. He has to invite this pass, because there's the challenge is he pulls R1 up. So I'd be staying right here, and I would leave that player here. I would not have approached here. That's where I think his timing of being aggressive versus passive is a little bit challenging. And so, but you have to remember, these guys are moving so fast. It is crazy how fast these guys are moving. So it is what it is. But he jumps it just a hair there, and that's unfortunate. But here we're nearing the halftime here as the play starts to develop. He gets around wide. Is there going to be another goal here before the end of the half? So he gets the space. He's waiting. That's great time. That is a great play by Tekkz here. What he does by doing this is he's dropping that back line. Back line's going to get dropped, and so then the AI is going to shift as you see this. Then what's going to happen is they're going to see the space. So now he's got an entryway this way. And so it looks like it opens up, but now it's a little bit skewed. So now it's kind of up and down. Now it's more of a diamond formation. As this comes in here, he's looking to play here, but his patience, this is where a lot of players would make mistake. They would go ahead and hit that pass, which maybe he could hit that on this side and then maybe try to get a cheeky position here, but he waits. And so now he's maybe trying to hit that. He doesn't. And so then he just keeps on pulling and waiting. And so now this player's moved the keeper. He sees it, which you have to have. The speed in which you are thinking to be able to see the goalkeeper movement and try to manage all that is very challenging. And so if you guys can see this in slow time, The difference is, how do you improve speed of play? It's not easy to do. There are ways to do it, and there are ways to improve it. But that's it for this video. This is where Tekkz dominated the play. He got into the corner position, and he really just won from corners on the first two, and that gave him power to manage the game. From there, I think Mark11 just broke down defensively. He did a lot of things that I wouldn't recommend doing. And if you guys like this type of video, make sure you guys, if you did find some ideas and techniques, remember, it's not always about mechanics. It's about positioning, timing, and decisions that you make. Until next time, guys, my name is John. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Subscribe if you learned something today, and make sure you guys like it. We'll see you guys tomorrow.